As you know, the region is facing a very serious humanitarian situation, which is the drought, the worst drought for 40 years. There's talk of famine in Somalia, Ethiopia. What about northern Kenya? Are you worried?
We have 3.1 million Kenyans in northern Kenya that are in dire need. In fact, we have had to reorganize our budget so that we can deploy resources for food relief in those areas. They have not harvested the last 4 years. They've had failed rains for the last 4 seasons. 70% of their livestock they have lost. And therefore it is a real serious situation. That is why Kenya is championing, is providing leadership on matters to do with climate change, because we are living it every day. We can see it on our faces every day, the effects of climate change. And that's why Kenya will be looking at COP27 to provide the framework where financing for climate adaptation, for climate mitigation.
Let's talk about Kenya's relations with other countries in the region. And just across the border in Somalia, the effects of the drought are really severe. There, they've had a peaceful transfer of power. I think many in the international community weren't expecting that. And you have Hassan Sheikh Mohammed back as the president there. He's done the job before. He's ruled out talking to al-Shabaab and wants to defeat them on the battlefield. Your country had lots of involvement. They had lots of troops in AMISOM, the African Union force there. But you also had really tense relations with Somalia at various points. You had a maritime dispute. Is the new president someone you can do business with?
I have already had 2 meetings with President Hassan Sheikh. I think he is a much more progressive, much more positive person, and is much more committed to fighting terrorism. And he has our full support. We are asking other partners that are with us in Somalia. We have a huge contingent of Kenyan soldiers and other personnel. And it's not a simple thing, because we are paying a huge price for the war against terrorism that's going on in Somalia, and the fact that we don't have a functional government in Somalia. And therefore it's in our best interest, in our economic interest, in our security interest, to make sure Somalia works. And I think President Hassan gives us the best possible chance. And the maritime dispute and all that aside, those are not existential. We can always sort out our maritime, boundary disputes in a peaceful environment. What is of priority to Kenya now is not the maritime dispute. It is stabilizing Somalia, making sure that Somalia is functional, having functional security arrangements so that we can pull out our troops, manage our own country, and then we can do what neighbors do. We can always engage and find solutions to the challenges that face us as neighbors.
Another country facing real trouble, drought, but also more conflict, is Ethiopia. You appointed your predecessor, President Kenyatta, to continue in his role as a mediator. That's interesting. I mean, he didn't even support you to be president. Why do you think he should stay in that role?
I am now the president of Kenya. I'm the big brother now. So, and it is in my place to work with him. I think it's the right thing to do. I will not allow negative energy to be built around our country. I do not want it was a competition. President Kenyatta had a candidate. His candidate did not win. I beat his candidate. That's a democratic process. That's behind us. We now have a country to govern, and we have a region to look after. And I believe President Kenyatta can bring value.
President Abiy Ahmed, who of course won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2019, but he gave up on peace efforts and has been commanding a war now in recent years. Do you think for a lasting peace he should perhaps step aside now?
I think that's not a decision that can be made in a place like here. I think matters of governance are much more complicated. They are not as straightforward as people look or as people watch from a distance. I think President Abiy is still will still play a major role and will be a stabilizing factor in that region.
As you start your job, you're committing your soldiers to a new war. They fought for so long in Somalia. Does that in any way worry you?
It is our neighborhood. We have no choice. I mean, we wish this could be done by somebody else. But if we don't get involved, it will get to us. The conflict in Somalia is a Kenyan conflict by and large. The challenges we have in Eastern DRC are Kenyan challenges by and large. Eastern DRC is served out of Mombasa port. I think 50% of all imports, exports go through our country. We have a commercial relationship. We're neighbors. These are not responsibilities we can run away from.